I am all about hearing differing opinions on Miami Hurricanes football. But when you start bashing the receivers coach, no, that ain't it.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC, and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. On this episode, we will talk about the keys for winning at Syracuse because, there's a lot of stuff being talked about off the field, and we're 8 days away from National Signing Day, but Miami's got a must-win game, at least one must-win game staring them right in the face right now. We'll talk about the Hurricanes being counted out for that game coming up, but we got to talk about this, and it is a Truth Teller Tuesday, by the way. We got Bruce Warner with us. So, Bruce, it's like, again,
count it out. Who's counting this out?
Kirk Herbstreit said he expects Miami to lose at Syracuse. He's expecting it, he said.
Didn't he pick the Gators against us, too?
I can't remember. A lot of people did.
Too? He's been wrong all year.
But, and listen,
maybe he's sitting too close to Corso or something that it's rubbing off on him.
Probably so. Listen, I can only get so bothered by picking against Miami in a game. Like, it is what it is. But what really does bother me is when someone who is supposedly a huge supporter and fan of Miami Hurricanes football, he's been around the program for decades. Luther Campbell really pissed me off yesterday, Bruce. So he goes off on this tirade on X, formerly Twitter, where he's being petty. He's got an agenda because there's a specific player on the receiving corps that he coached in high school who he wants to play more. But he goes out on X and he says, this Luther Campbell, Uncle Luke, that Kevin Beard, he called him the worst receivers coach in Miami Hurricanes history and says he doesn't know how to develop and doesn't know how to rotate. Well, first and foremost, doesn't know how to develop. You see how good Isaiah Horton has become. You see the strides that Jacolby George has made the last couple of years since Kevin Beard has been his coach. Like, I'm not going to give him full credit for Xavier Restrepo, but Restrepo has continued to trend up under the guidance of Kevin Beard. And then, Bruce, there's also this. The Miami Hurricanes are the only school in the country to have 5 players with at least 20 or more catches and at least 450-plus receiving yards. Miami is also the only school in the country to have 4 players with at least 35 catches and 450 receiving yards. They've got a top 3 passing offense in America, top total offense in the country, top scoring offense in the country, and someone's going to go off against the receivers coach. Kevin Beard is doing an incredible job, Bruce, and someone's petty agenda is not going to change that, and I'm not going to stand for it. I'm not going to tolerate it.
Wow, maybe I should just sit here and watch you. Holy smokes, but you got to go to law school.
Bruce, I'm also extra pissed because, someone who's supposedly a supporter of the program, when you're a week before National Signing Day and this guy's on social media ripping an assistant coach who's also an important recruiter, you're out there basically negatively recruiting a program you supposedly love. That also pisses me off.
Yeah, well, I said before we got on Isaiah Horton. How does he explain Isaiah Horton? I mean, this kid has gone from pretty good with potential to he's pretty damn reliable. How many drops does he have? Maybe 1 or 2 the whole season. He's playing some big minutes, and he's made some really tough catches with his hands up high. He's done great. Yards after catch, he's done great. Look, how about this? We're 10-1. What is there to complain about? A rotation?
Right.
A rotation? How many of those games did we need every one of those 4 guys, plus the tight ends? Almost every single one of them. Look, you know that I'm friendly with Luke. You know that's Mark, my friend Mark Caesar. That's one of his buddies. And I think I told everybody a few weeks ago, we went to Edison. We watched Edison play against Homestead. We met Luke at halftime. We both got hugs. He wants to come on the show. And I go, Luke, I'll call you. And then I hear this. And it doesn't seem like him. It's sour grapes. He's upset, but he's wrong.
Yeah.
He's wrong. And if I talk to him, I'll tell him he was wrong. He can be mad at me. It's okay. But don't say something like that because, A, it's not true about being the worst coach. I'm not even remotely close. These people love him. These kids love him. Secondly, look at the stats. Third, don't make this a personal attack on somebody because you have a personal vendetta because of what may or may not be happening. I don't know what he does in practice, this player he's talking about. You don't know what he does in practice. He certainly doesn't know what happens in practice and why he's not on the field. So, but that's just a bad statement for somebody of his magnitude in the community to make. It's just so wrong against the team he supposedly loves and told me he does. He still does. But, you know, it just was and I don't know what context. I don't know if somebody said something to him like, doesn't it piss you off that so-and-so's not playing? And he commented, yeah, he's the worst. I don't know what led up to it. But in my heart of hearts, I don't think Luke really means that.
Yeah.
But you know what? You have every right to be mad. I'm mad, and I am. Listen, I have the ability to talk to him. I'm going to say something to him.
Yeah, well, and we also, like, Bruce, you and I also, we know Kevin Beard, and how many times have we been out there to Miami practices, and he's so good with that receiver room. Like, it's another reason why it's insulting, because I know Kevin, I know he cares about these young men. Like, yeah, I mean, listen, he loves, you know, he loves what he does. Kevin loves coaching football. He played receiver at Miami. He was on the 2001 team, but he also loves developing young men and young players. And when we see him out there, like, he's so good. He's hands-on. He demonstrates every drill. He doesn't ask his receivers to do anything he doesn't do himself. He's so good with these guys.
And he's very low-key, and he's a teacher. He's not a screamer or a yeller. He does what he has to, but he's a teacher, and he's done a hell of a job. And, you know, he's not recruiting. Oh, he's helping recruit these guys. But a lot of these guys, that they were already here. Some of these kids were already here. I mean, not Brown. He wasn't here. He only was here the 1 year, but Restrepo was here. Horton got here. Arroyo was here, although he's not a wide receiver. Jacolby George was here. So he didn't really recruit these. He helped with, like, Shamar Kirk. He helped with I'm forgetting stuff.
And we're going to see
Nycar.
Yeah, and he recruited, and that was one of the best receiver classes.
Yeah,
in the
he was great last year. He
brings in Nycar, JoJo Trader, Chance Robinson, and then the other part of it, Bruce, is the whole thing about not rotating. Right. Okay. So Miami's trying to win games. This is not a charity. Like, well, okay, when you're 4-6, hell, maybe you play the kids a little bit more. Like,
right.
And I look at the other top passing offenses in the country, Bruce, because Miami's top 3, along with Ole Miss and Syracuse. If you compare the numbers on the rotation, Miami's not doing anything different from these other programs, Bruce. So, Miami has, I mentioned, 4. Now, even if you exclude the tight ends, because Arroyo's putting up big numbers, but if you just go wide receivers, Miami's got 4 of them with at least 509 receiving yards, and Restrepo's right under 1,000. It's Restrepo, Jacolby George, Isaiah Horton, and Sam Brown are leaders of the receiving room. If you include the tight ends with Elijah Arroyo, Miami has 5 pass catchers with at least 482 yards. The other 2 top passing offenses, Ole Miss has 4 receivers to get the majority of the workload, like Miami does. 4 wide receivers having between 500 and 1,000 receiving yards. Their 5th wide receiver actually has less yards than Miami's does. Syracuse, the other top passing offense, along with Miami and Ole Miss, has 3 wideouts between 400 and 800 receiving yards. Then there's a big drop-off after that. So it's not like these other top passing offense have 7-8 guys putting up big numbers. Like, Miami's not rotating any better or any worse than any other top offense in the country.
Doesn't it seem to you that this whole entire season, starting with the Gator game, and even though Mario said 1-0 every week, didn't it seem like every week was like a playoff game? Every week seemed to be so important. Maybe not the second and the third game that we played, but all the rest of them were nail biters. They were like playoff games, must wins, the whole 9 yards. Now we're another must win. So what do? Do you play 80 guys? No, you don't do that. You can't.
Yeah.
And I don't see Mario or Kevin, who I know even better than Mario. I don't see those guys playing favorites. For what?
No, they just want to win.
What's the purpose of it? These guys have worked hard. I don't know what's going on in practice. I know what's going on punt returns. Nothing.
Right.
So
yeah. Well,
Not that I said I said to you I wasn't going to. I didn't mention any names, but it's
Sure,
obvious.
sure.
We all know who he's talking about. That was his
It
guy.
was and listen, we hope that the other receivers could, Horton's going to be back next year. We're going to lose Restrepo, probably, Jacolby and Sam Brown, but Horton's going to be back next year. And the other guys who are on this roster are going to get opportunities to play more next season. They need to keep growing and developing. It's like, I'm not going to blame Kevin Beard for not rotating the bench in all the time when, like you said, it's been must win since the opening game of the year. And yeah, maybe there's been a couple games this year where Miami should have won comfortably and they didn't. So they didn't have the opportunity to clear the bench out at the end of the game.
They were
like
nail biters.
Ball State and FAMU. Yeah.
Nail biters. You can't afford to make a mistake. Listen, the defense didn't play that well most of the season.
Right.
And the offense was great, but then maybe midway through they caught up to us. So you can't lose any of these games. You got to play who you can play, and that's it. And then a lot of people earn time by playing on special teams. What was the special teams things that were done by this particular player that earns him more time? Nothing. Yeah. And it doesn't mean we don't love this kid. We do. He's a Hurricane.
Absolutely.
But I think, and I wonder, and I will ask him if he's sorry he said it. I will.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if he was, he probably wouldn't admit it. I know he
might admit it to me, or maybe he'll admit it to Mark. I don't know. I mean, they're very close. Maybe. Mark.
I hope he admits it to Kevin Beard. Like I don't care what he tells you or Mark or me. I want him to tell Kevin, like, hey, listen, I shouldn't have said that. That was out.
Trust me, if I talk to him and he does admit that, I'm going to say to him, why don't you just tell Kevin and apologize? And maybe he will, maybe he did. I don't know. But we don't need to have this coming up as we get closer to the biggest game of the year. They're all were big, but this is the biggest, because if we don't win this one, there is no tomorrow. Right. We're going to a bowl game. We'll go to the freeze your rear end off bowl game.
Well, we'd go to a good bowl, but not a great bowl. But all right, so we got a must win, like you mentioned. Syracuse coming up on Saturday. Miami needs to win this game to get into the ACC championship. We'll give you the key to beating Syracuse. We'll talk a little bit more about it. I think the theme of today's show is disrespect. There's a lot of it, whether it's Kirk Herbstreit or Luther Campbell, the award watch list, but we'll talk about the keys to winning at Syracuse when we come back. You guys want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new Truth Teller Tuesday episode of Locked On Canes. Oh, my friends, I am only getting started with Game Time. Guys, this is the only ticket app that I use. Game Time, lowest prices, especially right before the game. If you procrastinate a little bit, the prices actually get lower on the Game Time app right before, sometimes even during the event. Guys, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So many other features I love. The all-in pricing feature shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Guys, you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee on Game Time, or they'll credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Thank you for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, make sure you check out Locked On ACC. I'm going to be back later this week. By the way, shout out to Jackson Holzer from Locked On Syracuse for doing an incredible job Monday and Tuesday, filling in for me alongside Kenton Gibbs on Locked On ACC. Jackson's going to be on this show later this week, by the way, because we're going to have our Miami versus Syracuse crossover episode coming out later this week. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We got the truth teller, Bruce Warner, with us now. So, Bruce, all right, give me, I think your key is probably the same as mine. What needs to happen inside that dome this Saturday at Syracuse for Miami to punch their ticket to the ACC title game?
Just run back the show from last week before the Wake Forest game. Pressure up the middle, pressure from the defensive line without all the stunts and all the movement, because you saw when you looked at the pass rush, they were back there. They got back there. And if they weren't back there, they were causing problems. They were at the quarterback's feet, interrupting his passing vision and things like that. It wasn't as clear. And you did not see, maybe once, where the three guys got stuck on one side, one defensive lineman over here, And the quarterback could sit there and look, gee, look at the size of that hole I could run through or hand off to or a throwing lane. That didn't happen that much, which makes it easier for the DBs. That's exactly why Mish had that pick near the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
They couldn't see him because the pass rush was kind of getting into his face. So he just was standing there, boom, oh, I'll catch it and run with it. And that's exactly what he did. So that has to happen, and the running game. They've got to run the game, but they have to listen to you, me, and Clinton Portis. Get to the outside, and then they put in who we've been screaming about, Jordan Lyle, and look at the damage he did. And that's what happens when you put a kid like that in the backfield, or you put him in there in the backfield with either, again, my brain is screaming, Fletcher or Martinez, because you don't know who's going to get the ball, and they could block. So I just think that now they've, after 11 weeks, they kind of figured out what's going to work. That's what they have to do. Just do what they did last week, play hard, and maybe on offense, if they could suck those safeties up with Lyle in the backfield, because they know the other two guys, for the most part, are not going to take it to the house. So they stand up near the line of scrimmage. With him in the game, it should open up the passing lanes. They could put him on a wheel route. Good luck. They're going to have to rotate a safety on that. There's other guys that can get open, and I still think the key, like last week, is going to be Arroyo, because he's a mismatch.
Yeah.
In the middle of the field, on the sidelines, down the field, I think finally they figured out what's best for them to do. But it has to happen on the defensive side, because this team throws the ball really, really well. And how do you stop it? You don't stop it by giving our secondary 5 and 6 seconds to cover somebody. Get in their face, throw their timing off. You're not jamming anybody, so at least you got to do something. And I think that's the key. And
yeah,
of course,
you're going
turnovers
to see
and special teams. But I like our chances in this guy. I don't know where you're saying that, Herb Street, he's wrong. We're going to win. We're not losing this game. No way.
This could be a real good showcase for tight ends on both sides, right? Miami's got Elijah Arroyo, and Syracuse, their leading receiver is Aronde Gadsden II. I love his dad, former Miami Dolphin. I've hosted radio shows with him, but I hope Miami completely shuts his kid down this weekend. It's going to be difficult, though. But on both sides, the tight ends are going to be really good. But yeah, I mean, Miami, like you outlined there, Bruce, Miami needs to execute the game plan that others have tried and sometimes succeeded against the Hurricanes, and that is controlling the clock, right? Because Miami can hopefully exploit some things here compared to Syracuse. Syracuse has the 79th ranked rushing defense in the country. That's below average. They give up a little over 153 yards per game. So Miami needs to get their rushing attack going, like you said. And then on the flip side, Syracuse has a tremendous passing offense. They're top 2 in America, but they don't complement it that well with the running game, Bruce. They do have a talented running back in LaQuint Allen, but he's kind of a one-man show. They don't really have a rotation. Syracuse has the 127th rushing offense in America. That's near dead last, and they don't run it so much because they throw it so well. But let's hope Miami can keep them one-dimensional, because if Miami keeps them one-dimensional, you can control the clock a little bit better if you force some 3 and outs. And if they're one-dimensional, pin your ears back and rush the passer.
Right, and if we're ahead, they have to be one-dimensional. They're not going to run the ball to catch up. So, getting out of the gate in this game is very important. We can't fall behind like we've done in many of these games. We didn't against Wake, although we did give up some cheap scores. They got 2 touchdowns on a return, and the guy was wide open. It was busted coverage or something happened. So they really had no touchdowns when you think about it. One against the defense, and that was whatever. But that seems to be happening to our defense. So it is what it is. But we score 42 points. Syracuse isn't beating us. I don't think they're going to beat us anyhow.
I don't either.
What's the spread?
Miami is it was 10.5 the last time I checked. Let me double check it real quick. I got to get down to the 3:30 games. Miami at Syracuse. Why am I not seeing here? But it was 10.5 the last time that I looked, Bruce.
So that's where it's got to be, somewhere around there. There's a lot of Syracuse kids that come from Florida. They go up there to go to school. That's a big game from the Big East. That was a rivalry game in basketball and in football. Yep. So, I think that place is going to be rocking, but we got to take them out of that. We got to shut them up, go after them, score early, take them out of the game, make them one-dimensional. And McCord had a really bad game against SMU. Who was that game
He had
against?
Pittsburgh where he threw the 5 picks. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we got to get in his face and make him do things because he thinks he could do it by himself. Kind of like Ward. We got to protect him. He can't be doing that anymore. He had 2 bad plays last week. One that he threw in the end zone, was lucky it wasn't picked off. And then didn't he have that little flick pass that he got picked off? Yeah. Come on, man. You can't be doing that, Cam.
Yeah. Except though, more times than not, he completes those little shovel passes. Then we're like, that was incredible. But when it goes wrong, it goes wrong. No doubt about it. By the way, I confirmed the line is 10.5. Miami is minus 10.5.
I'm not a bettor, but I think we're going to beat them by more than that. I think maybe 17 points.
No, I would hope so. And just so everyone is aware of the situation, if Miami wins this Saturday, they're in the ACC championship game. SMU has already locked up a spot in the ACC title game. So if Miami wins, it's going to be Miami and SMU in Charlotte on December 7th. If Miami loses, doesn't matter what happens to Clemson against South Carolina because that's a non-conference game. If Miami loses this Saturday, Clemson is in the ACC championship game against SMU.
And that'll give them, they'll have the next bowl game after, unless they win that, unless they beat SMU. But let's assume that we win Saturday and then we lose to SMU. How much you want to bet they're going to put Clemson in a better bowl game than us? How much you want to bet?
Well, here's the thing. There is a chance. Yeah, they do. I'm not, and we'll tell you in a second how much
Clemson's going to travel probably.
Well, the thing, if Miami, as long as they win this week, if you don't win this week, all bets are off.
Right.
But if Miami wins this week, even if they lose to SMU, theoretically, Miami could still get into the college football playoff. We'll see how the rankings look later tonight, but I think Miami could afford a close loss in the championship game because the committee claims they're not going to overly penalize teams for losing in the conference championship, right? Where technically by their own criteria, they wouldn't be able to elevate Clemson over Miami if Miami loses in the conference championship game. So Miami could still sneak into the playoff, but again, all I want to do is keep winning, Bruce. If Miami doesn't win this weekend or the following weekend, I'm not going to feel like they deserve it. So that's all I care about. But you talk about Miami hate. Go ahead, and then we'll segue.
Yeah, because last week, weren't they 8? 2 teams in front of us lost, and we're still 8th. How could that be?
No, the CFP ranking hasn't come out yet. It's coming out later tonight. That's the only one that
we were
matters.
8th, and I just saw something about, and then 2 teams lost. How many losses does Tennessee have? 2?
2, yeah.
How many does have Alabama? Has 3.
Bama's got 3.
Georgia's
and now
got 1.
No, 2 at least.
Georgia's got 2 losses.
Yeah.
Well, they'll put them ahead of us too, no matter what.
Yeah. Let me pull up the AP top 25. We'll take a look. See. So Georgia has got 2 losses. Tennessee has 2 losses. Alabama lost for the 3rd time, and Texas A&M also lost for the 3rd time. They lost to Auburn in like 4 overtime.
So Oregon's undefeated. You got Ohio State, and then you've got Texas with the 1 losses. So they're going to be in there regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not saying if we lose to SMU, I don't think they're going to put us in there. I think they hate us. I think they're going to say we didn't play anybody. Strength of schedule is going to come back to bite us. And it wouldn't surprise me in the least. Not in the least.
Nothing would surprise me. I mean, if you don't win out, all bets are off. You're at their mercy. If you don't win out, you're at their mercy. If you win your next 2 games, you can't do any worse than a 4 seed.
If we win Saturday by 17 in the SMU game, I'm not sure. Because that coach knows us. His offense is incredible. His defense is better than I thought with a lot of our cast-offs.
Yeah.
But another game that we'd have to really play from beginning to end. But at least from what I saw the other day, to me, they've changed some of these schemes, and it looks like they could be better. Can they improve on it this week on the road? Yeah, and if they beat Syracuse, kind of like they beat Wake Forest or the Gators, I think we could beat SMU. There's no reason to think why we can't.
A couple things I want to talk about on the other side. Against Syracuse, who's going to be healthy for this game, right? Because we've had a couple of players who the last few weeks have been supposedly right there. Who's coming back this week? And how is Miami getting this disrespected with the awards finalists being announced today for things like the Maxwell, the Grozo Award, the Bolitnikoff Award. You want to keep it locked right here on a Truth Teller Tuesday on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Miami Hurricanes are favored by 10.5 points against Syracuse. If you want action on that game, you have to check out FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more right on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Alex Donno with you on Locked On Canes. The truth teller, Bruce Warner, is with us. So, all right, Bruce, Mario Cristobal on Monday afternoon spoke to the media. Here's the status on a few of the remaining injured players. He says we have complete clarity, he said, on Ryan Rodriguez, the offensive lineman who started the opening game against Florida, hasn't been able to play since he got injured in that game. He says Ryan Rodriguez is there. He's playing. And then he says we're right there with both Damari Brown, who hasn't played since the opener, and Elijah Alston on the defensive line, who's missed a handful of games. He says, I think we'll have more clarity by tomorrow. I guess tomorrow being today, but he doesn't have to tell us what the clarity is, right? So apparently Ryan Rodriguez is going to be back. I don't think he'll come back and, well, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if he'll come back and start, but he'll be in the O-line rotation, which is big. He played very well in the opener. And then, I don't know, Bruce, Damari Brown and Elijah Alston, they're right there. We just don't know. Oh, sorry. Hold on. I had you muted. There you go. You're unmuted.
I sound better muted. Anyway, I thought last week that Damari would play. Now he has to play. If he doesn't play now, I don't know how they play him against SMU. That would be ridiculous. I mean, what do you expect from him? So he's got to get his feet wet. He's got to have at least 20, 25 snaps. He has to. And they have some receivers he needs to cover if he does well, because SMU's got a great passing attack too. And so I think he's going to play. I think all three of them are going to play. I think they need them. They need him for SMU. And if they're going to go anywhere in these playoffs, they need him as well. I just don't want to see Damari Brown get his feet wet against SMU. That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Syracuse actually has technically a better statistical passing game than SMU. SMU's obviously a better team, but this is a good opportunity for Damari to get his feet wet and, most importantly, help that defense. Because, again, you're going up against the second most prolific passing offense in the country. You need as many of your best players available in the defensive backfield.
So knowing what we know about Rodriguez playing corner now, is he going to be like a nickel? Damari, I think he's going to wind up being a nickel in this game.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
I think that's what he's going to have to do. He's going to have to play a certain spot. Maybe not one-on-one stuff, but he's going to have to be a nickel. The other guys, we need bodies. You know, you just need some more bodies. To me, the game is going to go down to if Miami gets off to a good start. They've gotten off to a good start last week. Of course, they kind of gave it away a little bit, but still. And then they were stuck at 20-14 for like 2 or 3 series. But like I said, I think they've kind of ironed out some of the kinks. I think Ward feels a little more comfortable. He threw one bomb to George. It was a little long, but it kind of, at least they got their safeties over and it got them to move down the field, and that helps open up other stuff. So you got to take shots down the field, even if you overthrow them. You've got to, you know, and then it opens up the underneath stuff for Arroyo, for the backs. I'm just, when you sit here and you talk about Jordan Lyle for 5 or 6 weeks and he's not in the game, and then you watch what he did the other day, could anybody explain that to me? I mean, come on.
No.
Come on, Shannon Dawson. Are you serious? What, all of a sudden
play a lot more
good?
again this week.
What?
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to see a lot of him again this week.
But why did we not see him all those? He didn't even get in the games. For what?
I don't know. But hey, it's must-win time. Give him some PT. Now, I'm looking at these award watch lists that have been coming out on Tuesday, and you know, so the Maxwell Award finalists, and the Maxwell is the poor man's Heisman. It's like the same criteria as the Heisman. Nobody cares about the Maxwell. People only care about the Heisman. But they released their 3 finalists, and it's Dylan Gabriel, Travis Hunter, and Ashton Genty. No Cam Ward. And listen, 2 of those are non-quarterbacks. But for Dylan Gabriel, again, I know Oregon is the most successful team in the country right now. I get it, but Cam Ward has meant more to Miami's success than Gabriel has meant to Oregon's success, and the numbers back that up, Bruce. Cam Ward has 12 more touchdown passes, 700 plus more 700 plus more passing yards to go along with 12 more touchdown passes than Dylan Gabriel has. He's only thrown 1 more interception this year, 7 compared to 6 than Gabriel. So it's not like there's any category where Gabriel is truly better than Ward. So I feel like he was hosed there. The Bolitnikoff watch list, unfortunately, does not include Xavier Restrepo. At least like the guys that they did include all have over 1,000 receiving yards. Restrepo doesn't have that yet. He's probably going to get that this weekend, but it's Travis Hunter, Tetaroa McMillan of Arizona, and Nick Nash from San Jose State. But I think the omission that pissed me off the most, Bruce, was Andy Borregales not making the Groza finals, which is ridiculous. I could argue he's got as good or better numbers than any of the 3 kickers that they selected. Kenneth Almendarez of Louisiana, who's 25 for 27 on field goals. He missed 2 of 4 from beyond 50 yards. His long is 53. Ryan Fitzgerald of Florida State. Like, I get it. It's good, but like he and the punter are the only good things about that team. I'm not saying he shouldn't be on the list. So he is good. He's 12 for 12. His team has not won a meaningful game all year. 15 for 15 for extra points. Long of 59. So Fitzgerald belongs on the list. I get it. Like he hasn't.
You can't fault him for how crummy they are, but still.
That's true. But then Alex Rayner of Kentucky, 15 for 16 on field goals, 24 for 25 on extra points. And then what about Andy Borregales, Bruce? 15 for 16 on field goals with a long of 56. So his long is longer than 2 out of the 3. Only Fitzgerald of FSU has a longer kick this year. Borregales, 52 for 52 on extra points. I know what you said. The kickers don't have, maybe as much to do with team success, but he's playing on a team that's contending for a conference championship and a college football playoff spot. And Borregales has 97 points scored this season. That's more than 2 out of the other 3. Only the kicker from Louisiana has accounted for more points this year. So
what does that tell you? What does that tell you?
They hate Miami.
Miami bias. They hate us.
Yeah.
The refs hate us. The country hates us. It's been like that since way back then. And, the guy you were talking about at the beginning of the show, he was a part of that hatred. He was.
Yeah, that's right.
He was a part of all that and connected the school to him and the stuff he did. I mean, they both got something out of it. Miami got the attention. Luke got attention, wearing all the Miami gear. But they started to hate us then, and they still hate us. And you're not going to change it. Only thing you can do is win. Just win. If we win the next 2 games, we're going to be seeded 3 or 4, and then we see what happens. Then we'll see. We'll have a week off to get ready and prepare for one of 2 teams, and we'll be fine. Even if we lose that game, 5-7, 7-6, 11-1, plus a win in the ACC title game, a bye, and then even if we lose, I'm not saying we are, but even if, what's wrong with that season, man?
It's a great year.
And everybody's saying, well, Ward's going to leave. We're going to be terrible next year. How do you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know these guys. Have any of these guys, look, we've seen Emory Williams. They love Emory Williams. He's accurate. He's really accurate. And he's a big kid. He's not a little baby.
No. Well, I appreciate your time as always. Throughout the rest of the week,
now you got me mad.
I got you mad. Listen, I'm mad today, and I've been off the last couple days. I've been at Disney with my family, and then I'm at Epcot yesterday, and I start to see all these tweets about someone calling our receiver coach the worst in Miami history. Like, this stuff makes me angry because it's inaccurate and it's petty. So I'm shot out of a cannon today. I appreciate the truth teller. I appreciate everyone who watched this, listened to this, making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We'll talk more about the Syracuse game. We'll talk more recruiting throughout the rest of the week as well. We'll talk to you tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.